This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
British Airways suspends flights to Cairo on security grounds. South African military continues to patrol townships to curb gang violence. And a new team of Congolese health experts to coordinate activities to end the Ebola outbreak. Hello everyone, welcome to Africa Live on CGTN with me, Beatrice Marshall in Nairobi. Also coming up on Africa Live. The UK says Iran's seizure of a British-flagged oil tanker is illegal and hostile. We start the broadcast in Egypt, where a decision by British Airways to cancel flights to Cairo has sparked rage. The airline cited security concerns without naming any. The decision is likely to bring new scrutiny to the security at Egypt's major airports as the country struggles to revive its tourism industry. CGTN's Adel Mahroui has the story.
The Egyptian authorities are furious with what has been so far an unjustifiable decision from British Airways. Cairo insists it hasn't been informed and that the UK authorities have not instructed the flight's cancellations. German carrier Lufthansa has temporarily followed British Airways. However, it resumed its flights on Sunday.
It's an unjustifiable fear. There is no clear analysis about why the decision was taken, which is very surprising. Egypt has just hosted the Africa Cup of Nations with several heads of states attending. Security was not an issue at all.
Following the 2015 Russian plane crash in Egypt's resort city Sharm el-Sheikh, tourists have deserted Egypt. In recent years, the authorities here have restructured the entire security infrastructure. Cairo is confident its airports are now extremely safe.
The only exceptional state at Cairo airport are the stranded Algerian fans who are waiting to return from the African Cup. I don't think it's a threat, and if it is, British Airways must specify that. Egypt applies the international standards in airport security. It has stricter security measures in some aspects. Egypt is inviting anyone to visit to inspect on its security measures. I think it could be a politicized decision.
2018 has been the greatest year in the tourism sector since the industry began recovery in 2016. 2 million German and British tourists have visited Egypt last year. So far, British Airways' decision had no impact on trips scheduled to this tourism-dependent country. The airline's Cairo office says the latest security inspection was positive and flights will resume on July 26. To ease travel for stranded passengers, Egyptian national carrier Egypt Air has increased the capacity of its flights to London, pushing the new Boeing 787 Dreamliner fleet as it becomes the prime alternative for British Airways flight cancellations. The airway has also increased the number of flights to Heathrow Airport. Adel Mahroui, CGTN, Cairo.
South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa has ordered the army to crack down on rampant gangs in some of the city's crime hotspots. This follows the murders that have skyrocketed, causing a threat to security in the entire Western Cape. CGTN's Travas Andrews has this report.
Many trauma-stricken communities affected by gang violence this weekend has been a welcome relief, as National Defence Force troops continue to make their presence felt on the Cape Flats. They are under the President's orders to be a force multiplier in order to finally crack down on rampant gang activity and violence. Over 1,320 soldiers have been deployed, and some communities are clearly happy about it.
Initially, I think what's really been great is to see the community at large, children, adults, come out into the streets late at night to welcome the army into the community. And I think that's indicative of the fact that this has been an ongoing battle for months and months and years. And for once, people are seeing that something is being done about the situation that our communities are living in.
The army is assisting the police to carry out search and seizure operations in 10 communities most affected by violent crimes such as murder. The task at hand is challenging though, as the gangs and illegal drug trade remain a huge problem, as is the underlying socio-economic and police capacity issues at play.
Till we sort of eradicate the shootings and the rubbish that gangsters are doing in our communities, then we'll have businesses invest in communities. When businesses invest in communities, we create jobs for people. Then we have social development that is able to go in and do skills development programs, family support programs, women for change programs. But until we have stability, you can't do any of these interventions.
But communities have clearly had enough. Last weekend alone, there was a bloody affair with 43 people killed through violence. The police often end up as targets as well, but the army is here to restore the civility. For some Cape Townians, it is of great relief that the sound of gunfire is not penetrating through their already shattered neighborhoods. But there also remains deep-seated concerns that the gangsters will just continue in their violent ways. That's why some are even calling for tougher bail conditions, so that suspected criminals are not let back onto the streets.
They must protect us, not the gangsters. Because we go sometimes to the police station, then we make cases there. In 2 minutes' time, the gangsters walk free again. And that is not on my watch. And that I don't like it.
For now, though, the army is mandated to carry out their operations over the course of the next 3 months. And while it's too early to see any long-term gains being made, they are bringing long sought-after stability to the affected communities. Travis Andrews, CGTN, Cape Town.
On to Somalia now, where a high-level African Union delegation is in the Horn of Africa nation to gauge recent security and political progress made ahead of a planned regional integration among East and Horn of African countries. CGTN's Abdulaziz Bilo reports from Mogadishu.
The 30-member African Union delegation arrived in Mogadishu on Saturday to meet Somali officials and discuss matters of peace and security and economic integration. Former South African President Thabo Mbeki led the delegation from the African Union High-Level Implementation Panel that also included representatives from the regional body IGAD and the United Nations.
The delegation will be here for the next 2 days. The main aim of this visit is regional security, economic integration and political progress in Somalia and the Greater Horn of Africa.
The delegation met with the Somali President Mohamed Abdullahi Farmajo for extensive talks on regional integration and to seek first-hand information on what Somalia hopes to benefit.
We would need to focus on 3 matters. What is it that we think needs to be done to ensure that you have got the Horn of Africa region develops a common security architecture? The other one would be, what does it do if we're talking about economic integration? What would need to be done with regard to that particular matter? And that we should be the second pillar. The third one would be relating then to political matters, any political matters that are relevant to this issue of regional cooperation, integration, and then all of that.
Last year, the leaders of Somalia, Ethiopia, and Eritrea pledged to work towards political cooperation and regional integration following the signing of a tripartite agreement in Asmara. However, historical animosity between neighboring states and threats from terrorist group Al-Shabaab continue to pose a major setback towards the realization of an integrated Horn of Africa.
One of the matters which the continent needed to look at was the issue of addressing in a holistic way the challenges facing the Horn of Africa. And that decision said that in the view of it would help the Horn of Africa, the region, but also have a positive impact on the continent as a whole if the Horn of Africa moved towards integration.
Ethiopia's reformist Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed is largely credited as the main architect of the proposed regional integration. The region is strategically located with access to both Red Sea and the Indian Ocean. Experts, however, say that countries within the region must first address internal dispute within their respective countries before embarking on regional integration. Abdulaziz Bilo, CGTN, Mogadishu, Somalia.
Well, let's go to the Democratic Republic of Congo. President Felix Tshisekedi says he will directly supervise the response against Ebola. A new team of Congolese health experts have also been entrusted with coordinating all activities aimed at bringing the viral outbreak to an end. Tshisekedi's announcement comes 3 days after the World Health Organization declared Ebola a public health emergency of international concern. The virus has killed more than 1,700 people since it emerged in the country's eastern North Kivu and Ituri provinces last August. You're watching Africa Live, still ahead on the program. The UK says Iran's seizure of a British-flagged oil tanker is illegal and hostile. And out and about Cairo, AFCON host city serves modern football action.
How will your world change today? What happens here? What happens there? Or what you make happen for yourself? If it matters to you, it matters to us too. Your stories are the stories that need to be told. Africa Live. Find your voice.
The UK Defence Secretary has denounced the seizure of a British-flagged oil tanker by Iran's Revolutionary Guards. Penny Mardaunt says Iran has no right to detain the ship, rejecting Tehran's explanation that it seized the vessel because it had been involved in an accident.
It is absolutely clear. I spoke to our maritime commander out in the region today, early this morning. It's very clear that that ship was in Omani waters. This is an illegal and hostile act.
Iran says all 23 crew members aboard the ship are safe, adding that Tehran is required by regulations to investigate the issue. Iranian officials say the duration of the investigation depends on the level of cooperation by the involved parties. The seizure comes 2 weeks after an Iranian tanker was captured by a British Royal Marines in Gibraltar and accused of shipping oil to Syria in an alleged violation of an European Union embargo. To Tunisia now, where the state plans to create over 30,000 direct jobs in the private sector by supporting small and medium-sized enterprises. This is according to the Ministry of Employment and Vocational Training. As CGTN's Adnan Chauchi reports, authorities say SMEs are the pillar of the country's economy and industry.
Credit lines worth $35 million, about 104 million dinars, were granted to 47 small and medium-sized enterprises out of a total of 262 enterprises up to last June, according to data provided by the Ministerial Steering Committee for SMEs Revival.
SMEs are the pillars of economic development in Tunisia. They represent 95% of the industrial and economic fabric. Supporting SMEs is a strategic choice which boosts the economy and creates jobs in the country.
The Secretary of State for SMEs called for speeding up the examination of the files currently submitted to approval of the government, pointing out that his department is determined to provide more assistance to SMEs.
A financing line of 400 million dinar, about $140 million, was launched to support the financial restructuring over 600 small and medium-sized enterprises suffering financial difficulties.
This program, which runs until 2020, also provides for participatory credit facility for the restructuring of capital and reinforcement of own refinancing loans for bank rescheduling loans and a guarantee scheme for granted financing.
My company was financed by the project. The financing line is not complicated because the state provides the guarantees. My company operates in the agri-food industry. We have recruited and trained dozens of employees. Now we plan to expand.
39 project financing agreements in southern Tunisia were signed this week as part of the program to support the creation of small and medium-sized enterprises. The aim is to create 19 and 20 micro-enterprises respectively with a total value of $300,000. These companies, with a capacity of 125 jobs, are active in services, industry, tourism and handicrafts.
According to the second Business Climate Barometer, 77% of SMEs in Tunisia say soaring inflation and the increasing average money market rate have a damaging effect on investment. Similarly, 54% of companies blame taxation, which hampers the expansion of businesses. Adnan Shawishi, CGTN, Tunis.
Egypt has hosted a successful 32nd edition of the Africa Cup of Nations. And as teams, journalists and officials return home after a month-long tournament, they'd had a chance to sample not just the best of African football, but a few more things about the country.
Egypt is a northeastern African nation that borders several countries in the Mediterranean, including Gaza Strip and Israel, as well as Libya to the west and Sudan to the south of Africa. Tourists here enjoy a wide variety of attractions, but the most famous of them all is the pyramids of Egypt. Visitors get to see and learn about the country's pharaohs, built as tombs during the Old and Middle Kingdom period.
A travel to this North African country isn't complete without a visit to the world-famous pyramids of Egypt. Here in Giza, football fans, journalists and administrators have taken time off from the Africa Cup of Nations to sample what Egypt has to offer away from the football action on the pitch.
We are here at the pyramids, like you can see. These are things we studied in class 20 years ago. We are here looking at them. So, I would really say it's a very great country. People out there should come and actually visit Egypt and the pyramids.
But one most thing here is that they don't go to bed. You know, they stay up night till 5 a.m. in the morning. The morning starts in the night. The night is in the morning here. That's just the difference about here and our own area. And actually, I'll say that I really enjoyed myself because it gives me more time to do some night cruising things, you know, have fun, stays with different kind of tribes and try to learn Arabic as well, you know. But anyway, it's been fun.
Things can literally get hot when you're near an Egyptian kitchen. The country has a wide selection of culinary dishes that makes dining a good experience. It's the reason many restaurants open late into the night and serve good food, served under ideal summer conditions.
Yeah, I have a lot of friends, not a lot, a little bit out of Egypt, and they also love a lot of traditional food, like molokhia, fool, and stuff like that.
It's so good. It's so good, the food. And you can eat, and it's not so expensive, and it's okay. It's very nice.
Well, there are very many ways of getting around this expansive city of Cairo. You can take private means, or you can always use a public means of transportation, or better still, you can hop into one of these and enjoy yourself. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Yalla.
The allure of Cairo is irresistible. I had so much to see, from the majestic Nile River to the impressive skyline of the city. But let this not be the official guide. There is too much to see and feel about this city.
Horse-drawn carriage, or hantour in Arabic, is a slow but sure way of seeing the city in great detail. So next time you're here and you wish to feel like royalty, low-key, then you know what you get to yourself. Sadiq Shaban, CGTN, in Cairo, Egypt.
Sadiq Shaban having a fabulous time in Cairo. A South African music group from a village in Limpopo are showing the world that dreams do come true. The choir has reached the quarter-final stage of America's Got Talent, the world's most hotly contested talent show. And they could become the first African act to walk away with a life-changing $1 million prize. CGTN's Julie Shire reports.
South Africa's Ndlovu Youth Choir was started by a Dutch doctor 10 years ago to keep youth out of trouble. The youngsters from a poor Limpopo village have now achieved the impossible, qualifying for the quarterfinals of America's Got Talent.
I was very, very proud, and I felt like we are brave for being on that stage, standing on that stage and doing what we're doing, and because it's a big stage and it's a big competition.
It gives us a sense of hope, and like you realize that you're able to dream. So like your background doesn't determine how far you can go in life, or believe in that dream and like work hard, you will get there.
The beautiful, energetic performances from the choir had the judges in awe. But they'll have to do a lot more to earn a semi-final spot. They'll be up against 11 equally talented acts from around the world.
We're now preparing for the next round, and we'll be going sometime in August. And looking forward to going back to LA and performing in the Dolby Theatre in Hollywood. It's like you never thought we'd say that sentence, but the dream just carries on.
Should the choir go on to win the 14th season of America's Got Talent, they will walk away with $1 million prize and become the first African act to do so.
I still think I'm dreaming. I'm so excited. I'm super excited. And yeah, just grateful for this opportunity and everything that's happening right now.
And as long as we can keep them humble, teach them to be responsible but successful, they're an example for everybody, because if they can reach it, 40 other destitute South Africans can reach it. And those 40 can become 40 million. And I think that's what this country needs.
These young people leave to the United States in the next few weeks for the knockout phase of America's Got Talent, and we wish them the best of luck. Julie Shire, CGTN, Johannesburg, South Africa.
And your sports news coming up next. Here's what's ahead. Former Nigerian player Nwankwo Kanu gives a CAF the nod on this year's organization of the Africa Cup of Nations.
Africa, where champions are made, records are broken, legends are born. We're there for every goal, for every knockout, for every step of the way.
Match Point, only on CGTN.
The Africa Cup of Nations has just wrapped up in Egypt. Some of the continent's best players have been speaking about the tournament. Here's one of them, Nigeria's Nwankwo Kanu.
Yeah, it's a wonderful tournament, well organized. The logistics are fantastic. The stadiums are brilliant. I don't think any player have to complain about the stadium, because they have good stadiums. And the people of Egypt are so kind, and they love football. The big players always recognize the big stage, because the big stage is where you want the big players to perform. So when I see them in the group stage, I don't really count it. I always try to count when there's like quarterfinals, semi-finals, finals. That's the big stage. I will say Senegal. I don't know why, but from day one, what they did in the World Cup, last World Cup, was fantastic, and I've been following them. And when they asked me from the beginning, I said Senegal is going to be there. I'm okay. I'm 100% okay. You can see me supporting my team and being the CAF legend, one of the CAF legends. So trying to promote African football to the world.
Now, while the curtain call for the 2019 Africa Cup of Nations is due, the attention is gradually shifting to the next competition. The group stage qualifiers of the second 24 team of AFCON is made up of 12 groups. The top 2 teams in each group will get tickets to the African football showpiece that is scheduled to take place in Cameroon. 4 spots, however, have not been determined in the draw as yet. An early round will take place for the available spots, and the preliminary shall include 8 teams selected according to the latest FIFA ranking, with the winners of these rounds joining the 2021 AFCON qualifiers.
To us, the draw was very well balanced. It has put us with a promising team like Mauritania. To us, Central Africa and Burundi are outsiders. They are quite close in skills. We cannot belittle them. It's a very well-balanced group, but not an easy one too.
After increasing the AFCON to 24 teams, the qualification to it has been very easy. There is no concept of a group of death anymore. Egypt is in an easy group. There are teams in this year's AFCON who will be perceived differently in the qualifications, like Madagascar, Mauritania and Guinea. There will be more surprises next competition.
And in boxing, Manny Pacquiao said he had fun as he became the oldest welterweight champion in history by beating a WBA champion Keith Thurman in a split decision in Las Vegas. Thurman, previously undefeated, had promised to send the 40-year-old Filipino into retirement, but was knocked down in the first round before a thrilling fight went the distance. The 30-year-old had been looking for his 30th straight win. Pacquiao, a world champion at 8 weights, was fighting for the 71st time in a stellar career that has seen 7 defeats, but with 4 of those losses coming in his past 11 fights before the meeting with Thurman. 2 judges scored at it 115 to 112 to Pacquiao, while the other gave it 114 to 113 to Thurman.
This guy is a warrior. I can say that because I've been fighting a lot of opponents. And this guy is heavy-handed, man. Thank you. I mean, of the support, because I did my hard work training for this fight. I think I just blessed because I got him in the first round, and that's the key. I think that's the turning the point of being a winner tonight.
You know, I really think that I could have pulled the fight closer to a draw without that body shot, because the later rounds were definitely starting to go my way. But, you know, there's many times in the sport of boxing where one fight changes the course of the outcome. So for me, he started with the knockdown in the first and that body shot there later. And it was hard to convince the judges that I did enough.
And that's it on this edition of Africa Live. Remember, you can send your feedback to the contacts on your screen and follow us on our digital media platform. Thank you for watching. I'm Beatrice Marshall in Nairobi. From me and the team here on Africa Live, bye-bye, and thank you for staying tuned.